what would a block be? A shape. Yeah, a shape maybe, or what else? So if we're doing a house and we're going to use a door and a window as a block, what are those?
On the wall.
No, a little bit broader sense. From a drawing point of view, not from a
Solid object.
no. You're getting past this class.
Hole.
No. And in your drawing of the house, what would that be? Are you going to use it more than once?
Yeah.
Is that actually what the door or window looks like? No. Right? It's the right size, but that's not really what it looks like. It's a symbol, right? And so a block is a symbol that you want to use more than once. So it could be a door or window symbol if you're doing architecture. Or this week there's also an electrical practice that the blocks are going to be resistors and capacitors and diodes and pieces of electronics that you don't want to have to draw every time. You want to draw it once, just drop it in a bunch. So I'm going to go ahead and on the doors and windows, what's a door look like? On a floor plan, so
Piece of pie.
what was that?
Piece of pie. Looks like a piece of pie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like a piece of pie. Come on. Load. I couldn't understand. Supply? What's a supply?
What's it look like?
So when we're drawing it, this is our little house, right? Walls, 2 lines. The door is going to look like there's the opening for the door. And it's going to look something like that. The angle of that, how far that overlaps, usually it kind of stops, right? It's like that. It could be like that. The actual angle doesn't matter, just which side the hinge is on does, and which side of the wall it's swinging out matters. So are all the doors the same size? No. You can have little doors, you can have big doors, you can have really big doors. Same thing with windows, right? Window like that, slider window, 2 little lines are overlapping. How much overlaps there doesn't matter. The spacing really doesn't matter. But we might have windows that are 2 feet wide, windows that are 6 feet wide. We don't want to draw a bunch of blocks with different sizes. We want to make one block that we can do and then use that for different sizes. So how can we do that? How can we take one thing and make it different sizes? Copy and
Stretch.
you can stretch, but a little bit, because our block is going to be one piece and we can't edit individual pieces of it. So how would we make that bigger? What other commands do we know to scale? So when we insert a block, we can scale the X and the Y separately. So on a door, it's going to stay proportional, so it's tell both X and Y the same. On a window, this direction is going to scale differently than that direction, because this one is always going to stay 6 or 8 or whatever the wall is. That's going to change based on how wide the window is. And so if we're going to do that, what size should we draw those blocks? What unit measurements are we using for this?
Architect.
So how big, how do we measure a door? What's the size?
80 inches.
Yeah, like 36 inches, 28 inches. So if we're going to scale it based on the inches, let's draw it 1 inch squared. So when we draw that, we're going to draw a line. We're going to draw our that line is going to be 1 inch. That's going to be a radius of 1. And so that way when we draw this, we make it a block, and we insert it to put it here, we can scale it however big we want. If we want it 32 inches, we tell it 32. If we want 20 inches, we tell it 28. Okay? So, go into here, and so we're doing architecture for this one. I'm going to show you something new. We go to the A here. We go to Drawing Utilities, Units, and then go to Architectural. Now we can tell it feet and inches. So if we have a line that's 55 feet long, we don't have to convert that to inches. We can just 55 feet. So we say OK. So I want it 55 feet. I'm just going to write 55 feet. And then if I wanted it 55 feet, 2 inches, I said 2. Okay. So 55 feet, 2. That's 55 feet, 2 inches. So I draw a line, and my whole screen is only 8 feet, right? I'm not going to be able to see this whole line. So how can I get it so I can see that whole 55-foot line on my screen? Zoom out. I'm trying. That's as far as it goes. Is there another way I can zoom out? What? Yeah, if I type Z, right? Take the zoom command. And so one of the options I have is X. So this little NX for a scale factor. So I can say 0.1x. So it's going to be 1/10 the current scale factor. So enter. Kind of scales it out and resets it. So now I can draw a line. There's 65 feet right there. So I can point it across 55 feet, 2, enter. There's that line. 55 feet, 2 inches long. Down 10 feet, whatever, right? How can I make my wall thickness?
Offset.
Offset, right? So, should I do anything else to these before I offset? Maybe make it a P line? Because if I offset it now, I'm going to have to trim both of those. If I go to P edit, pick one, yes, join. Wall thickness, we're just going to go with 6 for an exterior wall. So there's our 6-inch wall there. Okay. So now I want to draw my block for my door. I'm going to zoom back in. I'm just going to draw a circle that's 1 inch radius. That's a 1 inch radius circle now. I can just draw a line. Center, straight up. Delete that off. So that I could use that as my symbol. I could have had that line going out here somewhere. I can use the little arrow there. And see when I click the arrow, it's going to stay on that same radius. If I click the box, it would actually move that and change the radius. So I want to click on the little arrow, pull it out a little bit. There's my door. Or I can make this line come in here somewhere. Like that. Whatever. It doesn't really matter, it's architecture. So that's that symbol there. The window, same thing. I'm going to draw a line. It's 1 inch. Offset it. 1 inch. This is where you want to use that nearest, because I don't care where it is. I just care that it's on that line. Right? Then that's acceptable to use nearest. This is one of the only times where you'd want to use nearest. Not much symbols. A little door symbol, a little window symbol. So now I need, and they're both the same size. It doesn't matter because I'm going to scale them when I insert them. So now I need to make a block. So where do you think I'm going to go to make a block?
Square.
Square.
Box.
Is it in here? No. Is it in there? No. Is it there?
Oh,
no.
it says block.
No. Oh, block. And then probably create. All of this stuff is also on the insert tab, right here. So create a block. I'm going to give it a name. Door. Base point. I'm going to pick the hinge side. And then my objects. Don't forget to pick your objects. And then I'm going to tell it, delete those objects. Because I really don't need that 1 inch by 1 inch door sitting there. It's not going to do me any good. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I'm going to tell it not to allow exploding. And I like to scale uniformly. So when I insert this, it's always going to have to stay proportional. I don't want a skinny, squashed down door. I want it to stay the right proportion. And it's inches, so I could have told it feet or whatever, but it's inches, that's what I want. And so I'm going to say OK, and it's gone. I'm going to make the window. Just right in the center. For the window, usually windows you dimension from the middle, and even doors, so maybe I should have done it the other way. Oh well. I want to be able to put it about the middle of here. And so I'm going to just shift right click, midway between 2 points. Select my objects. Delete. Now I don't want it to scale uniformly. I'll say OK. Now I've got my wall. So now when I want to insert those, I go insert. And here those are. And they're part of this drawing file now. So anytime I open this drawing, they're going to be there. If I open a new drawing, they're not going to be on that new drawing. So it's for that one drawing. If I copy and paste them to another one, I could do it. We can also do what's called a W block. So if I insert this, I can make a W block out of it, and actually just makes a whole new drawing out of it that you can insert. If I put in the door, and it's asking me for the scale. So if I want a 36-inch door, I just put in 36. Say OK, there's my door. So if I want it 5 feet over, there it is. Now I just need to draw a couple little lines here. And why didn't I include those lines when I made the block?
Because then those would scale with it.
Yeah, they'd scale with it. And so it'd kind of be points. Depending on the size of the door, it might be a little too short or too long. So just draw 2 little lines in there. I insert a window. I'm going to take off the uniform scale checkbox. So let's say I want to do a 6 foot wide window. What would my X be?
Where you put it on the drawing.
What?
Doesn't it matter?
It matters, look at how I drew it. Because the X and Y is compared to how I drew it. Because I can rotate it later, or here. So if I wanted it to go on this wall, I'd rotate it, but it's still, this would be X. Because that's how I drew it.
So your X should be 6 feet?
For 6 foot?
The x-axis would be 6, right? 6 feet.
6 foot is 60 inches?
Oh.
72 inches?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It goes by inches.
So that'd be 72 inches. And what's my Y value? 6 inches though, right? So this was 6 feet, that's 6 inches. Why is the Y only 6 inches?
That's the width of
That's
the
the
wall.
width of it.
Because that's how my wall is. So that's going to be 6. It's okay. And there we go. I can take this and copy it over here. And then rotate it. Right? I could also take it, let's say I wanted it to be, let's make this wall a little longer. Let's say I want one of these windows to be at 10 feet and another one at 20 feet. From there. How could I do that?
Scale it again.
No, I've already got it in here. I don't need to insert it again. I want one to be 10 feet from this corner and one to be 20 feet from the corner.
Maybe that one.
Huh, try it on there and then shift right click from.
I could, or I could draw a line. I'm going to go the lazy way. I'm just going to offset 10 feet, 20 feet. And I can just grab that, move it there, copy that from there to there, erase it. Because in architecture, they actually dimension from one to the next, so you don't always get the measure from the end. But so you can just draw a line, offset, 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 offset.
Can you actually just grab it, take it to the corner and get the?
You could, but then you have to do that for all of them. Or you could offset a bunch of lines and then just copy them. Kind of doesn't matter how you do it. So here's, and the way I did this is I did one drawing with all the walls, so you can kind of get all the walls in first. So the exterior walls are 6 inches thick, the interior walls are 4 inches thick. And you can see these walls, it's actually dimensioned to the middle of the wall. Then I have the blocks again for you. And then here's where the doors and windows are. And the sides. And so the way you read these notations, this one is 6 feet, 0 inches by 4 feet, 0 inches. Okay, that's how you read that note. Feet, inches, feet, inches. That's one way of doing architectural notation. There's lots of other ones, but that's how we're doing it, okay? So like this one, that's 2 feet, 8 inches by 7 feet, 2 inches. Okay? So that note is 2 feet, 8 inches by 7 feet, 2 inches. That's what that is. Okay?
That's not 28 inches by.
No,
This is 7
it's 2
inches?
feet, 8 inches by 7 feet, 2 inches.
Isn't that the door though?
What? Yeah, that's a door.
It's a tiny door.
Yep. Well, 2 feet, 8 inches is bigger than 28 inches. Right? It's 28 inches, 2 feet, 4 inches.
Or it's a big door, I guess.
No.
Yeah,
That's a 30-inch door.
That's 32 inches.
Yeah, 32 inches is
That's
a good sized door.
It's a typical door size.
7'2" tall.
Okay.
That's a standard door.
That's 6'8" was the standard door.
It's a bigger door. I don't know. I'm not an architectural person. That's one way that I learned how to do notation in high school. And so that's the way we're doing it. The one standard in architecture is that there is no standard. That's all I know. So that's what this one is. So you have the option of doing this practice exercise. Also, I have an architectural template for you here. Because on an architectural drawing, you're not going to try and fit it on an A-size piece of paper. It's going to be too tiny. So here's a different border, because the way they do the border is different. And it's a D-size template for you. So again, go into model space, and then start drawing it there. I don't know if I set up any, no, I didn't set up any layers, so you can create layers, so probably a layer for walls, a layer for doors, a layer for windows, like that, okay? Then there's also an electrical one, so anyone that wants to do electrical, you can do this. And so here's a little list of all the symbols and what they mean. This one is a new symbol for resistor. On the drawing, it uses the old symbol. So on yours, you can use either one. You can either use the old symbol, which we still use in the US, or you can use the international symbol they use there now. And you're going to kind of size it based on the text. So how tall is that text? 0.12. So kind of use that as your basis. So that's almost about as wide as that is tall. So that's about 1/8 of an inch wide by about 1/2 an inch long. So kind of use that general assumption for the size of the things. And the exact size doesn't matter there. I couldn't find anything on the exact size of the symbols. And even I found a symbol library where when I inserted half of it, some things lined up, but some things were completely different sizes. So there's not a standard size that you have to use because it's just a schematic. So what you do is you draw the resistor, the capacitor, the diode, the transistor, the ground symbol, and then you just, after you drew each one once, then you can insert them and connect them. Don't worry about putting the values on them yet. We'll do that next week. Same thing on the house for the architectural people. Don't worry about putting the sizes for the doors and windows in. We'll do that next week. So this week, just worry about getting the drawing part done. So, any questions? No? Also, I'm going to post it online, but
Are those on the drive?
what? No, not yet. I'll put them on the drive today. Lab 5 is going to be starting this week, where you're going to draw a drawing of your choice related to some other class, but you have to draw it in AutoCAD. So, like here's some examples. Outline a story or do a timeline for your English class, or if you're doing philosophy, do a logic diagram, or if you're doing electronics, do a logic diagram for the PLCs, or if you're doing, for science class, draw out the setup of a science experiment, or welding, draw a project, or do another circuit that's not the one that I just showed you if you're in electronics, or whatever. Figure out a way to use AutoCAD to do something for another class. It needs to have layers that also separate things by line weight, color, line type. So if you want things to be in color, that's fine on this one. So how would you make something in color so it would actually print in color? How would you make something print in color?
When you go to print, you change the print
You go to
setting.
print? No, not in print.
The layer property.
Yeah, in your layer properties, right? So if you go to my layer properties, right now, remember they're all style 1. If I made a new layer, and I made that one blue, and I changed this property to normal, so I'm going to make make that one be on the color layer, that one be on the text layer. So they're both showing blue here, now it's black. But now when I go to print, and I preview it, that one's blue. Because that layer is normal, not style 1. Okay? So if you want something to print in color, just change the layer properties for that layer to normal. So, anyone watch Mythbusters?
Yeah.
You know, before every experiment, they show a drawing of it.
Yeah,
You could do something like that. Something that you've got around the house that would relate somehow to another one. And I'd really like it if you would show this. You kind of have to. Show it to your other instructor. Have them sign off on it. Not signing off saying that it's great, but that they've seen it, that it relates to what that class is.
We get bonus?
Maybe they give you something, I don't know. For this, you get the credit for the lab. And if they refuse to sign off on it, or to sign it, or initial it, then just let me know that. And let me know who they are so I can go bug them for not letting you do your assignment. So, any questions on this? It's not limited to anything. It doesn't have to do with anything we've done so far in class. It could be whatever. Any questions? How would you do a timeline? You draw a timeline, draw things according to the scale, and put text in.
Typical just lines, dates, and that's all
You
you
can do
want.
graphs, charts, maps, whatever. Like if you're doing history and you're doing a thing about, I don't know, some battle, you do a little map of it. There's all kinds of uses. Yeah.
So let's say I found something online for like mechanical engineering to build a part, but I'm only taking in statics, physics, and I guess it doesn't really relate to any of these classes.
But is there something in one of those classes that would relate? Like,
Maybe physics, but
drawings. So here's an equilibrium diagram I did for my materials properties class. There's an engineering materials class I do a phase diagram in. You guys can't really see it that well, but let's see. Preview. Here's a networking diagram for the logical layout, or the physical layout. Start without previews. There's a hardness scale.
That's part of physics.
So showing different hardness scales and different materials along those different scales. Trying to find one. Music. We wouldn't have the Lego robotics class. When doing that class, do a drawing of your machine. There's architectural drawing. So I'm trying to find, if you're doing criminal justice, a diagram. I use that to find a ticket I got. I have one. So the cop was here and said that I ran the light, but I was using to show that I was here when the light changed. And so, any kind of thing that, I was trying to find one specific one where, when I did physics, we had, we were doing light, and so I had the lens and how the light was bending through the lens and stuff like that. So that would be an example. Because then you can actually measure the angles and everything. That's how I got through that physics class. So I'd draw it and then I'd figure out how to do it the long way. So there's all kinds of different uses, different ways you could do things. So I don't want to hear I couldn't think of anything. If you can't think of something, let's talk, and I'll try and help you figure something out. Okay. Also, next week we're going to go right to another lab, which could be an extension of this lab. But the one for next week is you're going to have to make something that's using some blocks and attributes, which we'll talk about next week. So blocks, we talked about today. Attributes is ways to add data back into those blocks. So like for the doors, we're going to add the size, the manufacturer, and the price. And for electronic components, put part numbers and the rating and stuff like that. So we can put data back into those blocks. So you could do something today and then continue that on into Lab 6. Or you can do one thing for this one and Lab 6 is something totally different. And 6 doesn't have to relate back to anything else. It could be just something of your own. So it could be furniture in your house or something like that. Okay? So start thinking about that. Think about this week's one. And I'll post both those on Moodle today. So any questions? Yes, no? No? All right.